Welcome back to Face to Face. I'm John Ralston. Steve Wynn is here for the first of two parts of an interview that we're doing with him. Before we move on to Las Vegas and its future, you mentioned Michael Milken, and I think that's interesting. Obviously, he became a controversial character after he got involved with you, got in trouble. There were some people who said that all of his financing was kind of a house of cards that fell apart on him in the same way that maybe people are saying that Bernie Madoff and others. Tell me the difference so people understand.
Oh, my God. To mention Mike's name in the same phrase as that villain, Bernie Madoff.
He was considered a villain by some, though, wasn't he, Michael Milken?
No, John. All wrong.
Okay.
All right. Wrong. Whoa.
You've said that to me before.
Oh, John, but I mean, you're so far off the track.
I'm playing devil's advocate here, but go ahead.
You're eating up to 3 or 4 minute breaks, and then you do these little trendy things about doom to get people to stay tuned. Let's just slow this down.
Okay, slow it down.
We're going to have this conversation. We're going to do it intelligently.
All right.
Mike Milken financed companies, from oil companies and cell telephone companies to gaming companies. Not one of them ever failed with a debt issue. Let's get that straight. In Drexel Burnham, not one ever failed. Mike's thesis about capitalization has turned out to be the backbone of all high-yield financing ever since. He's the most important figure since Bernard Baruch on Wall Street. Bernie Madoff may be almost unfathomably the worst villain of all time.
You know anyone who invested with him?
No, I don't. As a matter of fact, I never heard his name till the publicity.
Is that
amazing. Right? He missed my radar.
Yeah.
But that's one of the worst people in the history of the world. This man destroyed over a 10-year period his friends, women, charities, folks with their case money. How this guy didn't get killed by somebody is beyond...
Well, let's go back 20 years.
Let's go back to Las Vegas.
Yeah, but let's go back 20 years. Mirage. I said 20 years ago was the Mirage. You changed the whole dynamic of Las Vegas. All these chicken littles, including me to some extent, once in a while would write, are we overbuilt? There's all these Cassandras saying we can't survive. You still think, even with all these problems, the debt that some of these other companies have, the potential bankruptcies, you're still sunny about the future?
You're piling a lot of things up quickly in that question to me, and I can't answer them without sorting them out.
Okay.
I said capital structure was important at a time when companies lose a big 20% of their revenue or 25% of their revenue. If you don't anticipate a business downturn and have that built into your capital structure by having long maturities, by having isolated debt, non-recourse to the parent, by having low interest rate payments that you can pay even in bad times, and having cash reserves that allow you to ride out a bad time, then your capital structure will be inadequate and you can get into terrible trouble. We see that MGM is facing, as many other companies in Las Vegas are, that their earnings don't cover properly the promises they've made about interest rate coverage. When they do that, they're in default, and it allows the banks either to foreclose or to charge them new interest, which digs them into a deeper hole.
$13 billion in debt or something like that?
15.
15. Have you ever heard numbers like that? I mean, it's astonishing, isn't it?
Well, listen, two companies in our market, MGM and the Sands, in two markets, Macau and Las Vegas, undertook projects of such overwhelming scope and ambition that they had no real precedents or historical models to rely upon. They were groundbreaking products, and to that extent, they had no way of proving that they would work until after they were finished. Projects that we've done have been far more conservative and far more humble, and even in their size, than that, and all of our money was put up before we broke ground. These other projects were not only multiple times, or orders of magnitude bigger, but they relied upon a principle that you would get the money later, that you could roll your debt over and renew it. You wouldn't have to pay it off, that you could always roll it over. Maybe the interest rate would change a point or two, but you could always renew your debt. You didn't really have to pay off the mortgage. All you could do is keep it going. Well, those are assumptions that have proven to be wrong, because banks are not willing to roll over debt. Banks now are charging interest rates that are through the roof if someone is in default. And if a company's in default, it means they can't pay in the first place. So if they can't pay an interest rate of 4% or 5%, they're unlikely to be able to pay one that's 15.
What were they thinking, do you think? I mean,
It's hard to say what they were thinking, but let's say this, in defense of anybody who went down that path, it was done everywhere, not just in Las Vegas. or China in the gaming industry. It was done in London and Paris and Germany and Japan and China.
So there's nothing different about these guys having too big appetites, maybe rapacious appetites, than what other industries did in similar circumstances, you're saying?
For sure. Let's take the private equity firms. Apollo and Texas Pacific took 50-50, bought Harris for $27 billion. $27 billion. The banks said, go ahead, we'll give you the money, the investment banks. $27 billion is better than $22 billion because there's more fees, we'll have bigger bonuses, and we're going to pass this debt on to everybody else.
What was it really worth?
The debt was, they probably should have $15 billion in debt, not $23 billion in debt. And that's what it's trading at now, about $15 billion. So that means the equity is worth nothing. There was $6 billion in equity, and the two equity firms only put up $1.2 billion apiece. But they got fees of $500 million apiece, and it wasn't their money. So we developed this, you know, and the same thing happened with the investment banks and casino companies and corporations in America as happened with home loans. We had a perfect storm. We had the banks being told, don't make loans, just pass them on to us at Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. We'll give you an initiation fee, a fee for starting the loans. Now bank officers and home loan officers and mortgage companies around the country were being paid not for using good judgment and making loans to people who could pay them back on a home, but for passing loans on to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac back in Washington. So the bonuses for the loan officers were based upon how many pieces of paper they could shuffle back to Washington. When it got to $6 trillion, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac spit up. And the music stopped, and there weren't enough seats for everybody.
We have to take a break, but when I come back, I do want to talk to the man who reinvented Las Vegas about how Las Vegas is going to reinvent itself again for the future. Back in a moment.
Watching Face to Face with John Ralston, a program presented in partnership with the Las Vegas Sun, Cox Communications, and KLAS TV.